Oh, come on, kids. We're gonna keep going. Put those hands together. Ha, ha, ha. Sing this out with me. Waking up to another life. No more sorrow and no more night. You're the light, let it shine now. Let it shine now. Burning bright, 'cause we're not ashamed. Got a world to illuminate. You're the light, let it shine now. Let it shine now. You're the light, let it shine now. Let it shine now. Nothing can stand against us. Our praise will break the darkness. And we declare your kingdom's here. Because our God is for us. We're living in the promise. And we declare your kingdom's here. Shadows fade as you now rise. Hope is here with no end in sight. You're the light, let it shine now. Let it shine now. You're the light, let it shine now. Let it shine now. Nothing can stand against us. Our praise will break the darkness. And we declare your kingdom's here. Because our God is for us. We're living in the promise. And we declare your kingdom's here. Shine a light, shine a light. Shine a light, shine a light. Shine a light, shine a light. We got a light and we're gonna shine. Jesus, let your name be glorified. We got a light and we're gonna shine. Forever let your name be glorified. We got a light and we're gonna shine. Jesus, let your name be glorified. We got a light and we're gonna shine. Forever let your name be glorified. Let's go, let's go. You guys can dance along.
All right, come on, kids. We're going to take this opportunity to worship Jesus. Lift your hands. Let's sing this together. I heard 1,000 stories of what they think you're like, but I've heard the tender whisper of love in the dead of night, and you tell me that you're pleased and that I'm never alone. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are.
So for the memory verse this month, we are on our series, The Best Friend, where we're talking about the Holy Spirit. So the memory verse is this, 2 Corinthians 3:17. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Now you guys know how this works. You talk it through with me, then we'll go to small groups at the end, and you guys will memorize that, get points for you and your team, and possibly win some prizes. So everybody say this with me. Say 2 Corinthians 3:17. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Perfect. Now we're gonna say it all together, okay? Now you guys can follow with me. The words are on the screen. Read it, say it, memorize it, and it's gonna be good to go. So here we go. You ready? Deep breath. 2 Corinthians 3:17. Now, the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Excellent. I'm proud of you guys. You did so good. Make sure to watch this video back at home on our YouTube channel, and we will see you next week. Now let's jump over to the next segment.
Hey Awaken Kids, this is Chris, and I'm here to talk with you guys about Moses and the nation of Israel. I hope you guys get ready, and we're gonna have some fun today. So first off, the thing you need to know about Moses is that when he was born into a time where they were actually killing all the firstborn of all the Israelites. The Pharaoh at the time was worried that there were too many of them, so he was getting rid of them. So Moses had to be saved by his mom. And the way she did that was pretty insane. She actually put him in a boat made of reeds and placed him into a river. And what do you know, as luck would have it, I guess as blessing would have it, he would be actually picked up and found in that river by the Pharaoh's sister. Now, what ended up happening with that, she decided when she saw this baby, she knew that he was special. So she decided she was gonna go ahead, she was gonna take care of him, and she was actually gonna raise him as her own. And it was kind of a crazy thing that happened. She actually hired an Israelite to take care of the baby, and it was actually Moses' mom. So that's kind of a crazy turn of events. So that means that Moses was actually raised, even though he was an Israelite, he was raised in the house of Pharaoh. So he was basically kept in the highest places, had all the best things, and lived this beautiful life, even though the nation of Israel had been taken into slavery. So there was a big disconnect between who he was as an Israelite and who he was living as an Egyptian. I want you to imagine what that must have been like for Moses to be experiencing such privilege while he's seeing his people suffer. Well, as he grew older, he ended up going out one day and he actually sees these Israelites being hit and being treated so poorly and treated like they don't matter at all. And he was actually so upset that he went out and he did a very bad thing. So if you guys are at home taking notes, just remember, we do not kill an Egyptian under any circumstance. So he killed one of the Egyptians and actually tried to hide the body. He rolled him down under some dirt, and believe it or not, covering a little dirt over a Egyptian did not work. It was found the next day. He was found the next day, and they started actually, the Israelites who he was hoping to protect in that moment, they kind of turned on him and they like pointed the finger and they're like, hey, this Moses guy, man, he's killing people out here, you know. He's doing it for them. And they're turning on him and they're calling him out. So what does he do? Well, in that moment, he just freaks out and he flees. He completely flees. So he's living in the lap of luxury in Pharaoh's house, but in that moment, when things get crazy, he just leaves. He gets up and goes. All right, so Moses' life takes quite a turn. He flees into the desert, and instead of living in this lap of luxury that he had been doing, he's actually living in the desert with livestock, with sheep and goats and all these different animals, and he's out here in the hard temperatures. It's rough, it's rugged. He doesn't like it, I'm sure. And he ends up taking a wife, and he's working for his father-in-law. And in that time, he's out in the desert by himself. And you have to understand, in those times, being out in the desert, there was really, really old vegetation, things that were dried out and empty, and the heat would actually cause them to just catch fire. So Moses saw a burning bush in the desert, and he probably didn't think too much of it. But this bush would not stop burning. It kept burning and it kept burning. And normally they would just burn themselves out. So he decides, you know what? I need to go take a look and see what's going on. So he steps up to this burning bush and he realizes when God speaks to him out of that burning bush, he realizes that something very different is going on. So God actually calls him out of that place that he had been living in. He no longer was influential. He no longer was living out his purpose, and God actually called him up and said, I need you to go back to Egypt, go back to the Pharaoh, face all the accusation, face whatever they can say about you, and I want you to go and free the Israelites from slavery, from bondage, and from the oppression that Egypt had over them. So Moses had the opportunity to either do what was comfortable or to actually be obedient to what God was calling him to do. So he actually does the brave thing and he goes back. He was very afraid. He actually had a conversation with God, asking God, you know what? I think you should send someone else. Maybe send this guy, send my brother. He can talk really good. He's making up all these excuses, all the reasons why God should use somebody else, but God had called him out. Remember, guys, God doesn't call you to something to fail. He calls you to something so that you can succeed and bring him honor. Remember that in whatever you're dealing with today, that's for you. When Moses goes to speak to Pharaoh, he has no idea how this is going to turn out. He comes up and Pharaoh kind of starts questioning him like, well, how are you going to tell me to send these people out? How are you going to tell me what to do? And he basically tells him, hey, look, man, God sent me. This is what I was sent to do. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just doing what I was told. Pharaoh, of course, doesn't really take to it too kindly. So he kind of challenges him on it and like, well, what authority? Show me this God. So he says, okay. And he comes out and he's doing all these miracles in front of Pharaoh. He puts out his staff in front and it becomes a serpent. It literally turns into a snake. Now, if you're not like me, I love snakes. Most people will get freaked out if they see a snake, let alone one that came out of a stick. Anyhow, Pharaoh's still not convinced. So God basically tells Moses, if they won't send my people out, we're going to send plagues. So he sends these 10 plagues to Egypt. Now I am talking crazy things are happening. I'm talking millions of frogs just overtaking. Locusts, which are these bugs that just eat everything. The livestock starts to die. I mean, there is just a river turns to blood. Now, that may seem a bit extreme. That is a bit extreme. It's crazy. But God went to that level, to that extreme, to show how important it was for his people to come out of that slavery. So Pharaoh releases the Israelites. After all these crazy things happen, he finally says, all right, I'll let them go. But have you ever had that moment where you kind of do something you really don't want to do? Like maybe mom says, go clean your room. You get halfway there and you say, I could probably do something else right now with my time. Pharaoh had one of those moments and he decides after he had already told them, you guys can go, he says, wait, bring them back. They kind of go back and forth a little bit. And he kind of sends them out and says, okay, you can do this, then you can't. He's starting to put conditions on it and say, well, you can only go half of the people. It gets kind of crazy, and Pharaoh is basically testing God, even if he doesn't realize it. Now, God's bringing the people out of Egypt, and what he does is he actually wants to show them who he is and his love for them. So he actually puts a cloud before them that will lead them and guide them and show them the way to go during the daytime, and he actually puts a pillar of fire by night. So every night when they're going out, they're actually being led by this huge tower of fire. And God is really kind of showing them how big and how powerful he really is. Now, as they're making their way out, remember, Pharaoh is still back and forth about this. He's not 100% sure. Well, he decides in a fit of anger, he's going to go out there and he's going to just destroy them. So he sends the army, he gets the chariots, they're all amped up and ready to go. They've been drinking too much Mountain Dew, I don't know. But they decide they're going to go and get them. So they end up pushing them all the way up. And the people of Israel are approaching the Red Sea. So they literally have nowhere else they can go. So Pharaoh is coming behind them, and he is just pushing and pushing and pushing, and they know that they need a miracle. They know they need God. And what ends up happening is God tells Moses to extend his hand. So God didn't just do a miracle, he told Moses to extend his hand, and he did a miracle through Moses. He actually parted the Red Sea and completely opened it up so that they could actually walk clear out. Now, the entire nation of Israel had to pick up and go. They walk right on through the Red Sea, and they make it all the way through to the other side. But the most important part of this moment is it says that they walked on dry land. And I'm going to explain that in just a moment, the significance of that. They walked out on dry land. When Pharaoh and them come in, polar opposite, the water closes in on them and they are washed away. So the nation of Israel gets away clear and they start fresh. So I had said that God had walked them out on dry land. If you go back to when they were enslaved in Egypt, they were not wearing nice clothes. They were in rags. Their feet were dirty and wet and always caked in mud. That's something that you can kind of always just visualize, being so used to just walking in the mud that when you go into, for instance, if you were to go into someone's house on a rainy day, you stop at a dry mat and you take off all that dirt and all that mud and you wipe that off so you don't bring that in with you. Same thing. What he did was he gave them a dry place that they would walk on and kind of take off all the years of being enslaved, all the years of having to be controlled by someone, and he gave them a fresh start where now they can have free will, they can decide, they can actually choose God, because that was really what the purpose of bringing them out was that they would be the chosen people, the chosen nation for God. So he had to take all the mindsets, all the mentalities, all the emotional slavery, and he had to show them physically that it started there. They're going to walk into a new land and into a new journey, completely free of all the old bondage of the mind, of their emotions, of their spirit, in their heart, that they could be fully and completely devoted completely to God. All right, guys, so that is the story of Moses and the nation of Israel. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as I do, and have a lot of fun.